what used to be Kinshasa, isn't it? And they changed their name. And you go to DR Congo, because of the very bad nature of roads there, when they are importing cargoes, and the country is a very big country, very large, when they are importing cargoes to the eastern part of the country, they prefer to import it through Mombasa, Kenya, and transport it by land than to import it through their own ports on the western side. Because the roads are so bad, you spend days and sometimes weeks or months on the road getting to the eastern side. But coming from Kenya through those places where the transportation is good, the road infrastructure is good, you get your goods easier. So they prefer to go through that than through their own country. Okay. So hinterland is another important element. Okay. And then when speed and reliability is a major concern in seaports competition, then the other modes of transport and competitiveness of the port and other things is also subject to these water depth and efficiency of the hinterland connections. But you know, in Europe, they don't have a problem when it comes to the efficiency of their transport systems, especially the Western Europe side. They are very good. So this is the position of Rotterdam. As I said, it is strategically positioned. You have connections, you can move all over sea. This is Rotterdam, but you can have connection as far as to the middle part of Asia, here, connection down here, connection up, down here. This is Spain and Portugal, all the way here, from the small point here. They can also move on to the land of the UK, the United Kingdom here, and Ireland by road, rail, barge, or short sea feeder services all over. So it is advantageous for you to bring the goods here and then redistribute to all these places because of the good hinterland connections. Okay. It's very, very important. So the hinterland network in the European ports, that is how you have it here showing the 10 corridors of transport in Europe. Movements through the various ports. Through Helsinki in Finland, Russia. This is Minsk, Bulgaria, all these places. You can get all those countries. When you are choosing the mode of transport for hinterland connections in Europe, they decide between whether to go by road or by rail. In Europe, rail is expensive. It's fast, but it's expensive. Sometimes about 5 or 6 times more expensive than the road. Okay. But the road is slower. It is subject to, until recently when they formed this EU, European Union, and they've tried to reduce the number of blockades on the road. Every country you get to, even within one country, there are so many roadblocks. Like we used to have until recently when the inspector of police is at he's removed some of the barriers on the road, so that even when you are traveling on some of our roads, you always saw police barriers all over. It used to be the same thing in Europe. So if, for example, we were using any of the transport means from Rotterdam to other places, you get to a certain border checks, and so on. It was time-consuming, okay? But with the EU, when they formed the EU, they tried to remove or stop some of these blockades, and therefore they are able to transport the goods faster. My 3 friends between the transport cost and the transport speed. Sometimes, for example, as I said, rail transport is very, very fast, but it's also very expensive. But sometimes in Europe, for example, because they have advanced, they are also, apart from thinking about the cheapness of road transport, they also think of the congestion as well as the pollution level that it creates. Because most of the rails in Europe, I think almost all European countries, move their rail goods by electricity, because they have very efficient electricity production. It's not here where it's on, off, no, because you can't have that on a train system. Those rail lanes you saw in the Europort area, it was all the rail connections for the railway trucks, okay, the wagons. So they would rather choose the rail transport, even though it's more expensive, because it is going to be less polluting, okay, and also to have low energy consumption compared to the trucks, the cargo trucks and so on. You know, cargo trucks, if you look at the efficiency level between cargo trucks and the rail, then the rail is better. If you look at the rail and sea transport will be better, even though sea transport is more polluting than the rail. Okay. But for volume movements, then the sea transport is better. Now we come to Africa. It's a beautiful continent. So you have Port Said is here. You have Dakar, as we mentioned. Then you have Abidjan. Then you have Abidjan is here. Then you have Ghana. And then you have, that was the West African, Apapa, somewhere here. Apapa is somewhere here. So you have the African ports. We don't handle, if you combine all our efforts, it's like one of those big ports, one of the big 10 ports. But we are also holding our own fort in a way, except that just because there's not that understanding for us. For example, Ghana may be producing something that Nigeria could easily have taken advantage of and come to buy from Ghana, but they would prefer to say that this thing came from UK and it came from France and it came from Germany and so on. So they will go all the way there to buy it. It's because there's lack of intra-trade amongst the African states. That is why we are also not able to build up our ports and also our economies in that sense. Okay. So you have Africa, the major ports, as I said, Dakar. You have Dakar here, and then you have Abidjan, Ghana, Lagos, and then you have Durban here. On the East African coast, you have Mombasa, and then you have Port Said here. These are the major ports in Africa, but they don't handle as much as they do in the other big ports around the world. Tema, that I showed you earlier on. The cargo throughput at the Tema port is made up of what comes to Ghana itself, and then what goes to the other countries. So you have Burkina Faso, the green one. A lot of the cargoes going out from Ghana for transshipment for the upper countries is Burkina Faso. Mali is the biggest. Then you have Niger, and then which one is that? The others. Then you have the types of cargoes. You have general cargo, you have ro-ro, container, reefer, bulk carrier, tanker, and then the others. So all these form what is shipped in out. But it's not much. You can look at the volumes. But I can tell you for a fact that Ghana port is very efficient compared to all the others. Okay, are very, very efficient compared to the other ports. I mean, from what the users, the port users say, they prefer to come here than to go to the other ports because of the many bottlenecks and so on, bureaucracy and bottlenecks. If you go to Dakar, yes. You
see that all those statistics were taken in 2004. Is it the same?
Yes. No, it has changed. But when you go to their website, they still have that. So I couldn't get anything to to depict what it is now. That is one of the problems we have. So you have in Dhaka is strategically positioned. In fact, in those days when business was not so fast as it is now,